Welcome, the anointed ones. There are people who don't raise their voice, yet the room rearranges itself when they walk in. That line makes some people uncomfortable because it points to a truth nobody likes to admit out loud. Power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it observes, sometimes it calculates, sometimes it just understands faster than everyone else in the room. And when that happens, things get quiet for reasons that have nothing to do with respect and everything to do with instinct. Here's a fact most people won't say plainly. Human beings are wired to sense intellectual and psychological dominance long before they can explain it. Studies in behavioral psychology show that the brain makes subconscious threat assessments in milliseconds, picking up on cues like composure, pattern recognition, and emotional regulation. Translation: before someone decides whether they like you, trust you, or dismiss you, their nervous system has already clocked your awareness. And if that awareness is sharp, grounded, and disciplined, the reaction isn't admiration first, it's caution. That's where things get interesting, because your spiritual power doesn't show up the way movies, quotes, or social media told you it would. You're not floating, preaching, or trying to sound deep. You're thinking clearly while everyone else is performing. You're calm while other people are running scripts. You're noticing what isn't being said. And somehow, without effort, you're 3 steps ahead of conversations you didn't even start. People feel that. They just don't know what to call it, so they label it intimidating, hard to read, or my personal favorite, you're quiet but intense. As if that's a crime. And let's be honest, half the fear isn't even about spirituality. It's about intelligence that doesn't need applause. People get nervous around someone who can see patterns, motives, and outcomes without raising their voice or flipping a table. They get even more nervous when that person has a sense of humor about it. Nothing unsettles insecurity faster than someone who understands the game and refuses to sweat. So if you've noticed people acting strange around you, over-explaining, posturing, suddenly becoming philosophers, or just going mysteriously quiet, don't flatter yourself. And don't doubt yourself either. What they're reacting to isn't arrogance, it's not ego, it's presence with depth, awareness with restraint, intelligence that doesn't beg to be recognized. And that combination? Yeah. People are low-key scared of that, whether they admit it or not. Number 1, your awareness dismantles illusions people rely on to survive. Most people don't live in truth. They live in carefully arranged stories that help them get through the day without falling apart. These stories explain who they are, why they act the way they do, and why certain things are never their fault. Your presence threatens those stories, not because you attack them, but because you see through them. That's what makes people uncomfortable around you. You don't argue with their version of reality. You quietly recognize what's missing, what's exaggerated, and what's flat-out false. Your intelligence doesn't operate on surface explanations. When someone gives a reason, you instinctively notice the motive behind the reason. When someone performs confidence, you sense the insecurity it's covering. When someone claims innocence, you feel whether it's clean or convenient. You don't need proof in the dramatic sense. Your awareness picks up patterns over time. Tone, timing, contradictions, emotional leaks, it all adds up. And people feel that you're doing this without effort, which is what really gets under their skin. The unsettling part is that you don't rush to expose anything. You let people talk. You let them reveal themselves. That silence isn't emptiness, it's processing. And deep down, people know it. They sense that the version of themselves they're presenting won't survive prolonged contact with your awareness. That's when the nervous laughter starts. That's when they over-explain, change subjects, or suddenly become defensive for no clear reason. What scares them most is that you don't need to tear down their illusion out loud. Your understanding alone weakens it. People feel seen in a way that bypasses control, and that's terrifying for anyone whose identity depends on being misunderstood just enough to avoid accountability. Around you, shortcuts don't work. Excuses feel thin. Performances don't land. You're not cruel about it. You're not judgmental. But you are accurate. And accuracy is dangerous in a world where many people survive by blurring the truth. Your awareness doesn't shout, accuse, or confront. It simply refuses to participate in the lie. That quiet refusal is enough to make people feel exposed, even when you haven't said a word. Number 2. You think in layers, not opinions, and that disorients others. Most people form opinions quickly because opinions are comfortable. They give a sense of certainty without requiring much depth. You don't operate like that. When something happens, your mind doesn't jump to a conclusion. It starts stacking layers. You notice what happened, why it likely happened, who benefits from it, what's being avoided, and what this pattern has looked like before. By the time others are choosing a side, you're already seeing the structure underneath the situation. This is where people start to feel uneasy around you. They can't place you. You're not reacting emotionally the way they expect, and you're not aligning yourself with popular narratives either. You're taking in more information than you're giving out, and that imbalance makes people nervous. They feel like they're playing checkers while you're quietly mapping the whole board. Your intelligence isn't loud, and it doesn't rush to prove itself. When someone throws out a strong opinion, you don't automatically push back or agree. You pause. You consider the context, the history, the incentives, and the inconsistencies. That pause alone throws people off. In a world where quick reactions are mistaken for confidence, your restraint feels unsettling. What really disorients people is that you can hold multiple truths at once. You understand that someone can be right about one thing and wrong about another. You see that good intentions don't erase harmful behavior. You recognize that being hurt doesn't automatically make someone innocent. Most people aren't equipped to handle that level of nuance. They want clean heroes and clear villains. You see humans. Because of this, people struggle to manipulate you. Emotional pressure doesn't corner you. Dramatic storytelling doesn't sway you. Even intellectual arguments don't land unless they're structurally sound. You're not impressed by volume, confidence, or credentials. You're looking for coherence. And when it's not there, you don't attack it. You simply don't buy it. That's the part that makes others uncomfortable. You don't mirror their certainty. You don't validate shaky logic just to keep things smooth. You quietly remain unconvinced when something doesn't add up. People can feel that you're not sold, even if you never say it. And for those who rely on agreement to feel secure, your layered thinking feels like standing on unstable ground. Number 3, your calm is not passive, it's predatory awareness. People mistake calm for weakness all the time. They see someone who isn't flustered, yelling, or reacting on impulse and assume they can push, manipulate, or outsmart them. They think the calm is empty, easy to fill, or a sign of naivety. They could not be more wrong. Your calm isn't passive. It's deliberate, intentional, and quietly formidable. It's the kind of presence that doesn't need to prove anything, but inherently commands attention, respect, and a little fear. Your awareness underpins it. You notice everything without seeming to. The tone of a voice, the shift in body language, the patterns people repeat when they think no one is watching. All of it is on your radar. You're processing motives, inconsistencies, and outcomes faster than anyone realizes. That makes your calm feel almost dangerous, even if you haven't moved or spoken. People around you sense it subconsciously. It triggers an internal alarm they can't silence. They know you see what they're trying to hide, and they can't do anything about it. What makes this even more disarming is that you never need to overreact. You're not performing intensity or putting on a show. You simply exist in a state of quiet comprehension, and it makes people squirm because it's unpredictable. They don't know if you're about to confront, correct, or simply walk away. The uncertainty alone unsettles them. Your calm also gives you leverage without you asking for it. When everyone else is reacting emotionally, losing their cool or spinning out over perceived threats, you remain centered. That gap between your composure and everyone else's chaos highlights their weaknesses, making them more visible to you and, indirectly, to anyone paying attention. You don't exploit them unnecessarily, but the knowledge that you could, and the ease with which you could, is unmistakable. Your calm is a statement in itself. It tells people you're in control, not of them, not of the situation, but of yourself. And in a world where most people are controlled by fear, pride, and impulse, that level of mastery makes your presence feel both magnetic and quietly intimidating. You don't need to act. The calm alone does the work. Number 4, you don't absorb groupthink, and that makes you unpredictable. Most people's minds are shaped by consensus long before they even realize it. Opinions, trends, social pressures, and collective fears act like invisible scaffolding, keeping everyone in a predictable pattern. You don't play that game. You don't absorb the popular narrative just because it's loud or repeated enough times. You evaluate things independently, based on observation, logic, and intuition. You see the gaps others overlook, the biases they don't question, and the assumptions everyone else takes for granted. That makes your perspective rare, and that rarity makes people uncomfortable. Your unpredictability isn't about chaos, it's about clarity. You don't automatically side with the majority or bow to the loudest voice. You make decisions that align with what's true, what makes sense, and what will actually work, even if it contradicts social expectations. People notice it instantly. They realize that the usual levers they use, peer pressure, shame, approval, don't affect you. That realization throws them off because they've built their sense of control around everyone else following the same predictable patterns. Being outside of groupthink also gives you a quiet kind of authority. People sense that your choices aren't performative. They aren't trying to impress anyone. That removes leverage from anyone trying to manipulate the room. They can't predict your reactions, so they can't strategize against you. You become an unknown variable in every social interaction, and the human brain doesn't like unknowns. It reacts with subtle unease, overcompensation, or awkward energy. What makes this even more potent is that you don't flaunt it. You don't announce your independence from the herd. You simply act, think, and respond in a way that reveals it organically. That combination of calm autonomy and unexpected insight makes people uneasy because they sense intelligence and awareness operating on a level they can't touch. They feel a presence they can't control. And the truth is, you don't need them to understand your thought process for it to matter. The unpredictability itself becomes a silent power, one that people notice before they fully understand why. Number 5, you recognize emotional manipulation instantly and don't reward it. Most people operate on autopilot when it comes to emotions. Guilt trips, sob stories, dramatic outbursts, and charm tactics usually get results because people respond reflexively. You don't. You spot manipulation as easily as breathing. You notice the timing, the exaggeration, the inconsistencies between words and actions. You see the strategy before the performance begins, and that awareness changes the dynamic entirely. What terrifies people is that their usual tricks, the ones that work on everyone else, don't land on you. You don't need to call it out aggressively. Your response, or sometimes your lack of response, is enough to signal that you aren't participating in the game. That creates tension because manipulators rely on subtle rewards to keep their system functioning. They need reactions, guilt, compliance, distraction, sympathy. Without those reactions, their power evaporates. Your awareness alone quietly dismantles the leverage they thought they had. People notice quickly that emotional pressure doesn't move you. You remain measured, observing, and discerning, and that makes others defensive. They may increase intensity, act confused, or over-explain themselves, trying to force an outcome that you simply won't provide. That defensiveness is evidence of your awareness in action. You don't need to assert dominance or call someone out. The fact that their tactics fail is enough to make them feel exposed. The real power of this is in how it shifts interactions over time. People stop trying to manipulate you because it becomes exhausting and pointless. They realize that any effort to sway you emotionally will be visible, predictable, and ineffective. That doesn't make you mean, it makes you calibrated. You're not punishing anyone, you're simply refusing to participate in the illusions they rely on. Your intelligence combined with this emotional clarity creates a quiet, magnetic authority. People sense it instinctively. You are not easily shaken, not easily fooled, and not easily moved by superficial displays of vulnerability. That unshakable awareness is what makes your presence intimidating and your interactions profoundly different. You aren't reactive. You are the observer who sets the tone without saying a word. Number 6. Your questions are more threatening than your answers. Most people talk to impress, to convince, or to prove they're right. Your approach is different. You ask questions that aren't just questions, they're instruments of clarity. They cut through pretense, highlight inconsistencies, and expose motives without ever needing to accuse or argue. The subtlety of this is what makes it so disarming. People don't notice at first that your curiosity is strategic. They only realize later that in trying to answer, they've revealed more than they intended. The danger you present isn't in what you know, it's in how you make others confront what they haven't fully examined themselves. When someone answers your question, they aren't just giving information. They're inadvertently validating patterns, showing gaps in logic, and revealing emotional weaknesses. That kind of exposure is uncomfortable because it happens quietly, without drama. They leave the conversation knowing they've been seen in a way that bypasses their defenses. Your questions aren't aggressive, and that's why they're so effective. You don't lecture or condemn. You don't need to. People reveal themselves simply by trying to respond. A single, well-placed question can make someone reevaluate everything they've said, thought, or justified. That level of insight, exercised through subtle inquiry rather than loud confrontation, feels threatening because it operates in plain sight, yet escapes immediate recognition. What's even more unsettling for people is that your questions aren't predictable. You don't ask to follow a script or win a debate. You ask to understand, but in doing so, you reveal layers that others can't hide. They feel exposed without realizing why. Their confidence erodes silently while your presence remains composed, unshaken, and alert. This makes your communication unlike anything most people are prepared for. You don't need to dominate with answers or assert your intelligence. Your questions alone shift the balance of perception, positioning you as someone who understands more than they can express. That's why your quiet inquiry is more powerful and more intimidating than any answer you could ever give. Number 7. You carry restraint, not repression, and people feel the difference. Most people confuse restraint with weakness, as if holding back means you lack strength or conviction. You operate differently. Your restraint is intentional, conscious, and rooted in understanding. It isn't about suppressing emotion, impulse, or knowledge. It's about knowing when, where, and how to act. That distinction is subtle, but it radiates outward, and people notice it immediately. They can feel that your energy is measured, deliberate, and fully aware of its own capacity. That awareness alone makes your presence commanding. People around you are often frantic, reactive, and impulsive. They rush to speak, to dominate, to prove themselves, and to manipulate. You don't. You watch, process, and hold yourself in check. That silence, that patience, communicates power without words. It's a quiet warning. You can act, and when you do, it will be precise, impactful, and unavoidable. Your restraint is your signature. It creates tension because people sense the depth of what you could do if you chose to. What makes this even more intimidating is that your restraint is not fueled by fear or uncertainty. It's fueled by clarity and discipline. You're fully aware of your own potential and the consequences of your actions. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone, and that removes all leverage from those who try to control or test you. People instinctively feel that you operate on a different level, where patience is strength and impulsive reactions are a liability. Restraint also signals emotional mastery. You don't overreact, you don't exaggerate, and you don't overcommit your energy to trivial conflicts. This creates an invisible boundary. People understand that empty drama, manipulation, and games won't sway you. They sense that engaging you recklessly is pointless, and that sense of inevitability, that your calm, measured control can't be bypassed, is what unsettles them the most. You carry restraint like armor. It isn't cold or distant. It's aware, alive, and quietly unshakable. People may try to push, provoke, or test you, but your energy doesn't crack or spill. That difference between restraint and repression is felt on a level they can't articulate, and it leaves a lasting impression of quiet, undeniable authority. Number 8. You don't need to dominate conversations to control the room. Most people think influence comes from volume, talk louder, interrupt more, or outshine others with flashy arguments. You operate on a completely different level. Your presence alone sets the tone. You don't need to compete for attention because you command it naturally. When you speak, your words carry weight, not because they're forced or performative, but because they land with clarity, precision, and authority. People listen, not out of obligation, but because they subconsciously recognize that what you say matters. What makes this so powerful is that your control isn't visible in a conventional way. You don't overreact, correct everyone, or assert dominance aggressively. Instead, you shift the dynamics of the room with subtle cues, your timing, your tone, your choice to remain silent in the right moment. That silence is not emptiness, it's a statement. It communicates confidence, awareness, and patience, which makes others aware of their own behavior. They adjust, often without realizing they're doing it, and that unspoken influence is far more potent than trying to win a debate or speak over someone. Your intelligence amplifies this effect. You listen more than you speak, and when you do contribute, it reframes the conversation. People feel the shift, often realizing too late that the direction of discussion changed because of a single comment you made. That makes your input feel almost surgical. It's precise, impactful, and undeniable. This type of presence creates a subtle tension. People who rely on noise, theatrics, or manipulation to feel in control start second-guessing themselves. They notice that attempts to dominate or sway the conversation fail without obvious reason. Your calm command exposes gaps in their confidence and strategy without you having to say a word. Controlling the room this way isn't about ego, it's about mastery. You influence through presence, observation, and carefully measured contribution. People instinctively feel the difference between someone trying to lead and someone who naturally directs, and that natural, effortless control is what makes your intelligence and spiritual power feel both magnetic and quietly intimidating. Number 9. You don't chase validation, which removes leverage over you. Most people live their lives in pursuit of approval, whether they realize it or not. They seek praise, likes, compliments, recognition, or even subtle nods of agreement to feel safe and secure. That constant need creates predictable patterns, and anyone who notices those patterns can manipulate them. You operate differently. You don't chase validation. You don't measure your worth by how others respond or conform to your presence. That independence isn't arrogance, it's clarity, and it shifts the balance of every interaction. The effect on people around you is immediate and profound. When someone tries to impress, manipulate, or influence you through approval-seeking tactics, it doesn't work. They can sense that you don't require their validation to feel grounded or confident. That realization makes them uneasy, because for most people, approval is the tool they use to control, measure, or navigate relationships. Without that leverage, they're exposed, and they know it. Your self-sufficiency also amplifies your authority. You aren't reactive to praise or criticism. You respond based on understanding, insight, and principle. This removes the usual levers of influence people rely on. They can't guilt you, charm you, or sway you with social pressure because your focus isn't on what they think. It's on what's true, coherent, and necessary. That kind of presence makes you appear untouchable without effort. People instinctively feel the difference between someone who operates from external approval and someone who operates from internal certainty. They notice your energy doesn't fluctuate with moods, trends, or opinions. They sense that no amount of manipulation, flattery, or social play can shake your sense of self. That quiet independence is magnetic, unsettling, and often misunderstood as intimidation or aloofness. By not chasing validation, you create a sphere of autonomy few can penetrate. People instinctively respect it, fear it, or both, because it denies them the familiar tools of control. Your intelligence, awareness, and self-possession operate on a level where social games simply don't land, and that makes your presence both extraordinary and quietly disruptive. Number 10. You detect hypocrisy without announcing it, and that's unsettling. Most people spend a surprising amount of energy hiding who they really are. They perform morality, virtue, or kindness as if it's a costume, hoping no one will notice the cracks underneath. You don't need to call anyone out to see what's really happening. You sense the inconsistencies between words and actions, between promises and behavior, and between intention and reality. That awareness doesn't require confrontation. It simply exists, and people feel it. What makes this disarming is that it operates silently. You don't loudly accuse or expose, you simply register the truth. People pick up on your perception, often before you even speak. There's a subtle tension in the room, a quiet recognition that their performance won't fly around you. That tension is uncomfortable because most humans rely on others not noticing their contradictions to maintain their sense of self. When someone realizes you see what they're hiding, their carefully constructed world starts to feel fragile. Your presence shifts dynamics because people know they can't manipulate or impress you easily. Lies, half-truths, or selective storytelling fall flat. Emotional theatrics lose their impact. Even when someone tries to rationalize or justify themselves, your silent awareness exposes the gaps and contradictions without a single word of judgment. That quiet, unspoken perception is far more effective than confrontation because it creates accountability without forcing a reaction. This ability also signals intelligence and discernment in a way that's hard to ignore. People sense that you understand motives, patterns, and outcomes on a level beyond the obvious. Your perception doesn't just reveal hypocrisy, it highlights your clarity, your consistency, and your emotional acuity. Others can't replicate it, and that difference creates both respect and unease. You're not cruel, but your awareness acts as a mirror people can't avoid. They notice that nothing superficial hides from you, and that realization alone is destabilizing. People instinctively feel that you are fully alert, fully aware, and fully unshaken by deception. That combination of perception, restraint, and insight makes your presence quietly formidable, deeply magnetic, and profoundly unsettling. Number 11. You integrate logic and intuition instead of choosing sides. Most people live in extremes. They rely on reason alone or get swept away by emotion, and both approaches leave them predictable and easily influenced. You operate differently. You don't see logic and intuition as opposing forces. They're tools you combine seamlessly. You evaluate situations with analytical precision while simultaneously trusting instinct, gut feeling, and subtle cues that others overlook. This balance allows you to see what is real, what matters, and what is being hidden, and it gives you an awareness that is both deep and nuanced. People around you notice this immediately, even if they can't articulate it. You aren't predictable because your decisions aren't based on trend, pressure, or bias. They're based on insight. While others argue or react, you absorb patterns, contradictions, and possibilities, then act with clarity that feels almost effortless. That combination makes people uneasy because it's unfamiliar. They can't sway you by appealing only to logic or only to emotion. You exist outside the usual frameworks they rely on to feel smart, safe, or in control. This integration also amplifies your discernment. You can identify when someone is being dishonest or performative, not just because facts don't add up, but because the energy behind the words doesn't match the reasoning. You notice when intentions are misaligned with outcomes, and you process that instantly. That awareness doesn't need to be broadcast. It simply informs how you move and respond. People sense it, and it unnerves them because they realize they can't manipulate the situation in the ways they normally would. Your presence challenges habitual thinking. People instinctively feel that you perceive depth, complexity, and motive in ways they don't. They notice that you don't oversimplify or overcomplicate. You integrate both dimensions effortlessly. That integration gives you a quiet authority, a kind of intelligence that commands attention without demanding it. Others feel the weight of it, even if you never speak. It's subtle, but it's impossible to ignore. Your ability to combine logic and intuition makes your presence sharp, your judgments precise, and your influence quietly undeniable. Number 12. You don't rush to fix people, and that denies them an escape. Most people are quick to offer solutions, advice, or comfort the moment someone expresses struggle. They rush in to help because it makes them feel needed, in control, or morally superior. You don't operate that way. You don't feel compelled to rescue or smooth things over. You understand that true growth, clarity, and accountability happen when people face reality rather than avoid it. By not rushing in, you force situations and people to reveal their true nature. That honesty is uncomfortable for those accustomed to being shielded from the consequences of their own actions. People sense this immediately, even if they can't put it into words. Your presence doesn't soothe for the sake of appearances. It observes, evaluates, and waits. That waiting is potent because it strips away the usual escapes. People realize they can't rely on someone else to clean up their mistakes, to interpret their excuses, or to mask their contradictions. That absence of immediate rescue exposes them. Their habits, lies, and manipulations are no longer effective. Your restraint becomes a mirror, and they feel it as a quiet pressure that forces awareness without a single word. The subtle power here is in your timing and discernment. You act when it's necessary, when insight or intervention serves a meaningful purpose, not because anyone demands it. That measured response amplifies your credibility and authority. People can sense that your involvement is deliberate, not reactive. They notice that you don't waste energy on meaningless drama, and that makes them nervous because they can't predict when or how you'll engage. By not rushing to fix, you highlight accountability and truth. People who rely on constant validation or external solutions feel exposed around you. They recognize, consciously or not, that they can't manipulate you with urgency, emotion, or appeals for attention. Your awareness and patience deny them their usual safety nets, creating a subtle but undeniable tension. That tension is magnetic, commanding, and deeply unsettling, because it shows that you operate on a level where responsibility, clarity, and insight matter more than appearances, excuses, or convenience. Number 13. You can sit with uncomfortable truths longer than most. Most people avoid reality when it's painful, inconvenient, or morally complex. They distract themselves, rationalize inconsistencies, or create comforting stories to shield their minds from discomfort. You don't. You can sit with harsh truths, contradictions, and moral ambiguity without flinching. You don't need to resolve everything immediately or simplify life into easy categories. That endurance sets you apart and quietly unsettles those around you, because they instinctively know you won't be fooled by comforting illusions. Your ability to confront the raw, messy truth gives you clarity that others can't access. Where people panic or become defensive, you remain composed. You process motives, intentions, and consequences without being overwhelmed by emotion or the urge to escape. That doesn't make you cold. It makes you steady, observant, and aware in ways that feel disarming to anyone used to emotional volatility. When you're in a conversation or a situation, your presence communicates that nothing superficial will sway you. People sense that your understanding isn't based on appearances or narratives, and that awareness can make them anxious because their usual tactics of charm, exaggeration, or manipulation won't work. Being comfortable with uncomfortable truths also makes you a mirror. Others reveal themselves when they assume you'll conform to their narrative or take the easy side. You don't. You absorb, process, and respond with precision, showing them that avoidance and deception hold no power over you. That quiet, unwavering attention exposes weaknesses and dishonesty without a single dramatic gesture. This endurance also elevates your decision-making. You can weigh risks, outcomes, and moral consequences without rushing to a conclusion. People around you feel the weight of that capability. They notice that you operate on a deeper plane where clarity and truth matter more than appearances, popularity, or comfort. Your ability to sit with what most would rather ignore communicates strength, intelligence, and discernment. That presence is magnetic, unsettling, and quietly commanding because it reveals who they are, even when they wish it didn't. Number 14. You don't perform spirituality, you embody discernment. Most people confuse spirituality with performance. They recite phrases, quote philosophies, or act as if wisdom is a costume to wear in public. You don't do that. You don't need to sound enlightened or prove your insight. You embody it. Your intelligence, awareness, and spiritual alignment aren't for show. They're lived, active, and quietly undeniable. That authenticity is disarming because people can't fake it, replicate it, or influence it. They sense that your understanding comes from lived experience, observation, and deep reflection, not from borrowed words or social approval. What makes this so powerful is that discernment operates in silence. You see intentions clearly, recognize patterns effortlessly, and notice energy that others miss entirely. You act and respond from understanding rather than impulse, fear, or pride. That ability makes people uneasy because it removes their usual tools of manipulation. They can't sway you with lies, guilt, charm, or theatrics. Your awareness exposes what others try to hide, without a single confrontational word. They feel the weight of your presence before you even speak, and that alone commands respect, and often fear. Your discernment also communicates boundaries in a way that performance never can. People quickly realize they cannot test, deceive, or exhaust you. You choose when to engage, when to observe, and when to intervene, and every choice reflects thoughtfulness rather than reaction. That control of energy, combined with clarity of judgment, makes your presence magnetic. Others instinctively recognize that you operate on a level of perception and insight that they cannot touch, no matter how hard they try. By embodying discernment instead of performing spirituality, you shift interactions and environments naturally. You don't need to explain, prove, or teach. People sense your depth, your integrity, and your alignment, and that presence alone unsettles those who rely on superficial appearances to navigate the world. You're not loud, flashy, or performative, yet your influence is undeniable. Your intelligence and spiritual power resonate quietly, exposing truth, commanding attention, and leaving an impact that words alone could never achieve. Conclusion. The truth is, your spiritual power and intelligence are not surface-level traits. They are deep, unwavering forces that operate in ways most people can't comprehend. You don't need to dominate, perform, or convince anyone of your strength. Your presence alone shifts dynamics, exposes illusions, and challenges the comfortable narratives that others cling to. Every subtle observation you make, every quiet choice you execute, and every disciplined restraint you hold communicates a level of awareness and mastery that is impossible to ignore. People feel it before they can name it. They sense that your mind sees patterns they don't, that your energy doesn't bend to pressure, and that your understanding is precise, layered, and unshakable. You don't play by the rules that govern ordinary interactions. You think in layers, integrate logic and intuition, and hold space for uncomfortable truths, while others flinch or distract themselves. You recognize manipulation without reacting to it, question without threatening, and observe without needing applause. You carry restraint, independence, and discernment like invisible armor, and that combination creates a presence that is both magnetic and quietly intimidating. Your awareness dismantles illusions, your clarity exposes pretense, and your intelligence positions you as someone whose influence cannot be forced, only acknowledged. This is why people are low-key scared of your intelligence, not because it's loud, showy, or aggressive, but because it operates on a level they can't touch. You embody truth, awareness, and precision, and that presence alone commands attention. You are not performing spirituality, you are living it. You are not chasing validation, you are defining your own standard. You are not reacting to chaos, you are mastering it silently, consistently, and deliberately. If this resonates with you, recognize the power you already carry and own it fully. Don't dilute your presence for comfort or approval. Stand in your intelligence, your awareness, and your spiritual clarity, and let the world adjust around you. If you found this insight valuable, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content that elevates awareness and unlocks hidden power. Like this video if it spoke to you on a deeper level, share it with someone who needs to hear the truth, and comment below to let us know how these truths show up in your life. Your presence, just like your awareness, matters, and it's time to embrace it fully. God bless you.